Next up, we have our first panel discussion on building the cybersecurity innovation ecosystem. It is indeed an honor for me to introduce our renowned contributors. Let's start with our eminent moderator, Ms. Cynthia Rotich, Cybersecurity Incident Response and Information Advocacy and Partnerships Communication Authority of Kenya, Mr. Stanley, Mr. Stanley, CEO, Digital Transformation Experts Limited, Mr. Pravin Paupiah, IT Security Specialist, Mauritius Ports Authority, Mr. Cyrus Kamau, Deputy Director and CIO, National Commission for Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Samuel Mbonu, Group Chief Information Officer, Tangerine Africa. Over to you, Cynthia, to moderate this wonderful session.
Thank you so much. I would also like to thank our host, sponsors, and the audience for inviting us onto this panel to discuss this important topic on building innovation cybersecurity ecosystem. Now, diving right into the discussion, um, the digital space continues to enable individuals and organizations to leverage on technology to drive their processes and systems that drive economies. Now, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic necessitated a rapid shift globally onto the digital space. This meant that we needed to adopt more innovative ways to secure our systems and data. And this is when we really start to see digital transformation taking shape and is now a conversation globally. Now, I would like to hear your thoughts on this, Mr. Pravin. Why then do you think we need to constantly build a cybersecurity innovation ecosystem?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I should say very good afternoon to all of you. So my name is Ashley, or you can call me Pravin. It's fine. So I'm from the Mauritius Ports Authority, and this is what I do. Security is what I eat, drink, and sleep. Right. So when see the question is very important when we look at it from two perspectives. See, if we are from the private sector, it would be a different story. If we are from the government sector, it's a totally different story. I think all the gentlemen on the platform would agree, because here when we're talking about constantly, I'm very clear on that constantly. It's because people think, or CEOs or DGs might be thinking that, once I'm doing the investment means, okay, so I have done a huge investment, so I won't come back again and invest in security. So I just have to invest once and it's okay. I don't have to invest anymore, because they think that, once you've done one investment means, it will go for a lifetime investment, and nothing has to be done more. And this is absolutely not true at all. This is not how it works, and as you can all I think all of you on the platform would agree that the landscape of security is changing constantly, is changing seconds, minutes, and so on. And the attacks are so sophisticated that you can't. It's practically impossible to say that, I'm not going to invest anymore. No, no, no. I don't agree. And as information security administrator and analyst at the port and in various organizations, we have I do get this a lot of issues, because they say, so we have invested this much amount of dollars in our security system. Do you think I have to invest more? This is a very, very important point, and all the top management of all the organization has to, have to rethink of the strategy, and if budget needs to be increased. And in fact, um, security is such an important element in your company. In fact, I would rather say the most important part of your organization, because as Mrs. Faith, I guess, um, Wawira just mentioned, I think she has been very, very clear. She talked about the goodwill of the company. I think, if you have a fall in your goodwill, you crumble down. You name it, from the stock market, from anywhere. It's a loss of money. It's a loss of goodwill. So the stakeholder of this company, be the government, might be at stake. So I'm sure that all CEOs and governments and stakeholders of companies must have, number one, constant investment. Number two, they have to be part of this cybersecurity team also. They can't say, you look after it. I'll be at the backside looking at you and try to help you. No, it's not about trying. It's about them putting their fingers, hands, and whatsoever, into this topic to make it happen. Because we need the top level management to drive such an important part of this kind of a project. Because without them, it is practically, I would rather say, impossible in implementing a good program of information security or a good ecosystem, security ecosystem in anywhere you go.
Yeah, right. Thank you. And bearing this in mind, um, Mr. Kamau, what then are the key drivers to building this successful cybersecurity innovation ecosystem?
Sorry for that. Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you for the warm introduction. So I think having come from the government aspect in terms of our mandate, which creates three independent institutions, that's the Commission and the Kenya National Innovation Agency. One of the key aspects that causes our is a key primary driver in building this successful ecosystem. There could be several, but maybe for purposes of time, I'll stick to four that are critical. One of them is aggressive and creative education, awareness, and upskilling of human capital in cybersecurity. We have seen over the last period of time that even if you have a workforce that is not well endowed in terms of understanding the risks, as simple as phishing emails and all aspects that read exposure, just quick links and such cases have become a case of which we have been able to find ourselves as IT or information officers in challenge. So that is a critical pillar that goes to that. The second level would say a robust public and private partnership model that drives leadership. As a country in Kenya, we know that's one of the key aspects. We try to host a lot of innovations. We have seen a lot of big tech and small tech and all these players moving into universities, identifying innovations and coming up to fund these innovations. The third one will be the enabling environment, the government through pro-innovative policies. Some of them are creating some frameworks, which you have already seen by like establishing the innovation agency, which is able to coordinate the innovations within the ecosystem. This is a big measure in terms of global competitiveness and global innovation index. And as Kenya, we strive as much as possible to see ourselves within that, I would say, upper half of the innovation ecosystem. Then finally, and the last one is innovation and incubation platforms that attract industrial innovation ecosystems. These are seen innovation areas or having cases of which we are able to identify and set up innovation hubs, incubation spaces, where we're able to bring in the industry. And we have also been able to train our innovators and people within the environment on how even to set up and communicate through setting up a pitch. And we have been able to see the industry, especially the financial sector, coming in and able to see and grip and have some resources which they're able to borrow from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming back to you, Mr. Pravin, with the perspective of why and what we need to build this successful innovation ecosystem, do you think that our leadership who are involved in decision making understand a cybersecurity ecosystem?
That's a big question mark. You know, yes and no. It depends. You know, but to wherever I go till now, it's a no. It's a no because you need to explain and explain and explain to them. You know that they don't understand the cybersecurity ecosystem. For them, as I said from the very beginning, one investment means a lifetime investment. No, it's not possible. It's not possible. And just now, I am battling, with the management of it's a live experience which I'm getting right now. Just to renew an IPS and IDS licenses, which is costing me around 34 34,000 USD. These guys are asking so many questions just to renew. It's a live, I'm just experiencing just now. I'm getting hundreds of questions. Why, when we bought it, how much we bought it, or etc., etc. So this is something which I think, or the leadership of our industry, of industries must understand. As I said from the very beginning, I'm very consistent. These guys, these guys must do a course on cybersecurity, right? They should be properly educated before they come to us, because they should know it's not, the olden days, elephant days. I don't know how you call it. That Stone Age. I'm sorry, the Stone Age, where you come and I still come and write on papers and no, 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 no. It's not that anymore. It's not that anymore. A simple mistake, a threat somewhere in your or a vulnerability which is found in your servers or in your routers, in your perimeter um, infrastructure, you are gone. You're gone. These hackers will come and bump into your network, and hack all your data, and or they can just insert a ransomware in your network, and you're completely gone. Finish. Some of them are very good at doing what we call website defacement and so on. These guys are very, very good. You like it or not, they are always in advance on us. If we don't have good perimeter equipment and good horizontal and lateral equipment inside our network, it would be very, very hard. For instance, you guys, we don't have, well, these guys do not approve our a patching thing to happen in a network. Just imagine what is the situation. So I think all our CEOs and HODs has to understand the ecosystem of a network, or of an organization, or cybersecurity ecosystem is so important and crucial for the advancement of the company. Otherwise, we are doomed. So we need them. They need to understand. I think we need to have more CEOs, on such kind of an event. These guys needs to be, to follow us. They need to understand that it's not just typing few words or few commands and so on. They have to realize that data has gone digital. Everything is on computers, or it is coming 100% on computers, and you rely on computers. If you don't secure them, if you don't patch them, if you don't look after them, if you don't secure your logs and so on, I'm sorry, boss, we are going to lose everything, and your company will be a doomed.
Right. I like that perspective. The cybersecurity landscape brings on board private and public actors that need to constantly engage with government so as to seamlessly operate in the digital space. Now, I would like to hear from Dr. Mbonu. In your opinion, how can government foster a secure enabling environment even as digitally enabled economies continue to scale? And maybe the best place to start this conversation would be, do you think that government is doing enough in the first place?
All right, thank you very much, Cynthia. I want to be sure. Can you hear me? Just to be certain that you can hear me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So just to say thank you to the organizers and for this opportunity. Speaking to innovation in cybersecurity and the role of the government, we cannot overemphasize the value and the importance that the government will be bringing to the table. And I'm going to say that also in alluding to some of the point that my co-panelists Pravin have said, and also highlight the fact that if government is adequately involved, some of the challenges that he has highlighted will be addressed. And I will start by saying that, most times the top guys in the businesses, even from our side, when we talk to them about cybersecurity, we sometimes the way we present it, we are not helping matters, right? We go with a lot of technical jargons, and these guys do not really understand what we're talking about. So I think we need to begin to use the risk-based approach in speaking the terms of cybersecurity, because they understand risk, right? So if we adopt that approach, there is a lot we'll bring to the table. Now, coming down to the government and the role the government will play, the news is everywhere, and I think any forward-thinking organization would always want to consider what the global body is saying regarding cyber threats. For instance, from the World Economic Forum, we know that the top five risks today, cyber risk is number two. Number two, after the global climate change issue. So every C-level executive would definitely want to pay attention to cyber risk, because if it's number two globally, is a major concern, and I think that will go a long way, in helping us as cybersecurity professional in pitching the cybersecurity relevance and requirements to the guys at the executive level. Now, I will speak from experience, right? The role the government will play in entrenching innovation in cybersecurity space. And I will talk from a compliance perspective, compliance to regulation. I have been in different organizations over the years where each time we put together memo requesting for approval for any cybersecurity investment, if we don't put the line that it's a regulatory requirement, it's very tough to get those approval. But when we say that this is a regulatory requirement, and if it's actually a regulatory requirement, I can tell you, you will get the approval almost immediately, because businesses are very cautious when it comes to regulatory infractions, because they know the direct impact that we have on the brand of the organization, and also there's likelihood of losing their operating license. So developing roadmaps, compliance requirements, standards, and policies from the regulator is a major driver to entrenching cybersecurity innovation. I'll give a typical example. We are all aware of the GDPR. GDPR, that many organizations today always know that they need to comply to the requirements of GDPR. When you then tailor to your own, local requirements. For instance, if I take the Nigerian space as a typical example, alignment with NDPR is something very crucial that every organization that is a custodian to data of citizens of Nigeria, they pay very close attention to it. So driving those regulations from the regulatory perspective will then entrench the need for organizations to comply. That's very crucial. I'll give a typical example again in the Nigerian space. For instance, the Central Bank of Nigeria, they've done a lot in coming up with a lot of guidelines, requirements for compliance for the banking space in Nigeria. And because of that, that has improved the adoption of technologies, the adoption of standards and global best practices, and that had entrenched a lot of value, for most players in the industry. So the importance of regulation cannot be overemphasized. It cannot. And when those regulations are then put out there, companies and players in the industry need to align and to meet those requirements. Obviously, that will improve the entire cyber security ecosystem. I will also say this: innovation. What exactly is innovation? Innovation is being more efficient, making things better. You want to reduce costs. You want to reduce the overall, standard of living of people. So when we then adopt innovation strategies, what we are doing is to improve the processes, improve the people in terms of their knowledge and their understanding, and also adopt the best of technology. It's not about technology alone. It's about ensuring that the entire ecosystem are impacted and everything are synergized and working hand in hand. Beyond technology innovation, we need to also ensure that the processes are improved upon and that people are adequately aware, people cutting across the different levels, be it the C-level executive, be it those that are responsible for the day-to-day operation, even up to the people that are at the partners and the vendor level, even up to the people that are at the artisan level, people at cleaners at every level. So it has to be all encompassing. So the importance of regulations from the regulatory bodies and governments in improving the ecosystem of innovation in cybersecurity cannot be overemphasized. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think you really touched on a lot, even brought out the aspect of collaboration as we build a cybersecurity innovation ecosystem. Now, as the cybersecurity landscape continues to advance, we are seeing that threat actors are also adopting sophisticated attack techniques to compromise systems and users' data. Uh, with this understanding, how then should we approach creating incident response plans and disaster recovery plans, bearing in mind that we have persistent attack vectors such as ransomware, which is adopting emerging attack techniques such as the ransomware as a service model. Uh, Mr. Chege, could you speak to this briefly?
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So it's interesting what Wira said before we started this panel discussion. She talked about the threats that have come. They're coming fast and furious. One of those threats is ransomware, and I would let you know that more and more organizations in sub-Saharan Africa and in Kenya are being hit by ransomware. So the first question is, what kind of posture should organizations adopt to be ready to respond when that ransomware hits? I'll go through some of the checklists that organization can adopt to be prepared and prevent ransomware. And then after that, I'm going to talk about general strategies that organizations can put in place so as to be ready and prepared. Number one is, once an organization is hit by ransomware, the first thing is initial investigation. Very important. There should be no panic, just initial investigation. Number two, it should be declare the ransomware event. The CISO, the CIO should declare the ransomware event. No hiding, nothing under the carpet. Then you start the incident response. And this means that you disconnect the network immediately because you don't know how much harm can be impacted in your organization. You would connect the network, then determine the attack scope. Is it affecting the whole data center? Is it impacting all the employees or just some of the employees? Is it impacting all the locations? So determine the attack scope. Number five is limit the damage, contain the damage, limit the initial damage as much as possible, contain it. Okay, then share information with the team. Uh, it could be the CIRT team or the whole IT department, but you must share the information with the team. You're not working alone. No man is an island. Then determine the response. How are you going to respond to this ransomware attack? Um, and then recover the environment. Faith also talked about how to prepare the environment so that you have a prepared primary site and a prepared disaster recovery site. Very important. Recover the environment. Then identify the next steps. But that is just about ransomware. But so many organizations are not prepared in the long term about how to prepare against other kind of attacks. So there needs to be a holistic approach, the people, the process, the technology approach of how to deal with this kind of attacks. The first thing that the CIO or CISO should do is improve the security governance. Very important. Governance comes at the top. Number two, satisfy security compliance requirements. Samuel alluded to some compliance issues. It wakes up the C-level executives. It wakes up the board members when they hear about compliance requirements. Also, you should reduce security exposure as much as possible. Reduce vendor and third party risks. Vendor and third parties can introduce risk into your organization, and secure the cloud services. More and more organizations are going to adapt the cloud very soon. Secure cloud services as much as possible. It's good to push your data to the cloud, but remember, the buck stops with you. You are accountable for the data in the cloud. But more importantly, have specifics, like what we talked about earlier. Prepare for the ransomware and prepare to address security incidents. So, Cynthia, that's what I'll summarize my presentation like. Thank you.
Thank you to all the panelists. From this discussion that we have just unpacked, I think my take home would be cybersecurity is a global conversation, considering the fact that every party that operates in the digital space is affected. And as we work towards building a resilient cybersecurity innovation ecosystem, I think some of the key points that have been covered is that we need to ensure that every member that is involved in this cybersecurity chain understands what this cybersecurity ecosystem is and the role they play in securing their cyberspace. Two, there's the need to implement appropriate capacity building initiatives and regulations that will enable building this successful cybersecurity innovation ecosystem. And lastly, we need to engage constantly collaborative efforts to build.
Cynthia, sorry to interrupt you. Your mic is a bit far, I guess. I hope it's the same with everyone.
Can you hear
Your
me
mic,
now?
your mic.
Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, but you're
Yes,
originally very faint.
it's a bit soft. Yes.
Okay, sorry. So I was just wrapping up, pointing out that cybersecurity is an issue that is a global conversation. And this is because every party that operates in the digital space is actually affected by the cyber threats that are out there. And as we work towards building a resilient cybersecurity innovation ecosystem, some of the key points that have come out in this discussion that we have unpacked is that we need to ensure every member of this cybersecurity chain understands what the cybersecurity ecosystem really is and the role they play in securing their cyberspace. And two, we need to implement appropriate capacity building initiatives because at the end of the day, we need a competent workforce that is enabling this cybersecurity innovation ecosystem. We also need to take up regulation that enables building this successful cybersecurity innovation ecosystem. And lastly, we need to constantly engage in collaborative efforts as we build a resilient cybersecurity innovation ecosystem. So thank you so much to all the panel members for unpacking this discussion.
Thank you very much to our eminent panel members, Stanley, Ashley, Cyrus, Samuel, and of course, our panel moderator, Cynthia, for an interactive and extremely insightful panel discussion. Thank you once again for giving us your precious time for the summit, and I hope all of you enjoy the rest of the day. Have a lovely day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.